Good morning, everyone. My name is Carrie Ramsey, and I'm the project manager for the Weekend Project, which is led by Queen's University, and it's funded by FedDev Ontario. And we have been in operation in Kingston area now for about 7 months, actually. Time has flown. And I think this is our 21st workshop that we've been doing online since COVID began. And there has just been a growing community of women entrepreneurs in the Kingston region and beyond, because I know that many of you are joining us from other places today. And so on that note, just as we're getting started, why don't you take a moment to find the chat button on the Zoom and just drop us a note. Let us know where you are connecting to this workshop from today, because I know that there are people from not just Canada. And we would love to just perhaps if you want to let us know where you're connecting from, as well as what your business is. If you'd like to just drop us the name of your business, that would be helpful as well. A part of the Weekend community is certainly networking and getting to know women entrepreneurs who have businesses in the region and beyond. So we would love to hear from you. So while you're doing that, I'll take a moment to acknowledge that I am connecting to this workshop today from Belleville, Ontario, Canada. And this is also known as a First Nations territory, which traditionally was a hunting, gathering, and fishing area, specifically for the Huron, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe peoples. And so for my family and myself, especially during these beautiful summer months, it is an absolute honor and privilege to be residing here and now working here, because we're working from home. So I hope that you have had a chance to enjoy nature during these beautiful days of July. For those of you who aren't from Canada, this is a real treat for us, because this is basically the great weather that we can enjoy at this time of year. Although I know there's some skiers in the group, and I'm sure that you enjoy the winter too. So I'm not going to knock winter too hard. But it is our privilege today as well to have with us Joanna Reynolds from the Center for Social Innovation. She is based in Kingston, but she is working with an organization in Toronto, and she might be able to give us some more information about that. But the subject we're going to learn about today is social enterprises. And this is something that's of interest to me, and I know many of our Weekend clients, because they've asked, what is a social enterprise? And so Joanna's going to cover that today. I'm going to be in the background facilitating, so if you have any questions or comments, you can put those in the chat. But I understand that Joanna also is interested in your questions as we go through the seminar. So she, I believe, will have some pauses built into the workshop today. She'll be asking some questions of her own. And in turn, I'm sure that many of you will be interested in finding out specific questions that might occur to you. So let's try to do as much as we can today in this power-packed hour. And without further ado, I will turn it over to Joanna. It's a pleasure.
Thanks so much, Carrie. It's great to be here. And thank you, everyone, for inviting me and participating, coming to learn a bit more about social enterprise. Today, for some reason, my audio has a bit of a lag to it. So maybe, Carrie, you can let me know if there's still a lag and if I should go off camera.
I would say it's just still a slight lag there. It might be better if, I mean, I want to see your beautiful face, but
I will. I know, it's nice to see everyone, but great. Yeah, I'm going to go off just in case. Great. So my name's Jo Reynolds, and I work with the Center for Social Innovation. As Carrie mentioned, I'm here in Kingston with my family. I moved here about 3 years ago. The Center for Social Innovation is based in Toronto, and I work specifically to support social entrepreneurs. I have for many years, as well as my background is in social finance and impact investing. And you can see my title is Social Innovation Specialist. So I've got about 15 years in this field. Yeah, it's a wonderful field to be in. And I'm very happy to share with you a little bit about, to talk to you about social enterprise in particular. Okay, one second. But before we get started, I'd love us to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we are on. Now, some of you may be in this area, and some of you may not be. But it would be wonderful if you can add the place that you're in the chat box. And there's a resource that I've come across that you may have known of as well. It's called nativeland.ca. And if you go into nativeland.ca, you can search for your area, and then you'll find out all of the nations that are in the area that you are in, as well as the languages that are spoken, and links to learn a little bit more. And since we're all in a place of learning about First Nations, Métis, Aboriginal, Inuit peoples who are living on our lands today, of course, and have for since the beginning of time, we're in a place of relearning and understanding the role that colonialism has had on our on these lands. This is a chance in our land acknowledgement to recognize this learning place that we're in. So I'm just going to share something I've learned, and if you'd like to share a resource or something you've learned, please do so in the chat. It's always really interesting to see what people are doing and learning about this during this important time. So we are on the lands of the Haudenosaunee territory, also the Huron-Wendat, but I'm learning a little bit more about Haudenosaunee. It's also known as the Iroquois Six Nations, and it's consisted here, as you can see, of the Seneca, the Sayuga, the Onondaga, and the Onondaga, and Mohawk, and Onondaga. It was a matrilineal society before European contact, and Haudenosaunee means people of the Longhouse. And I really appreciated taking a look at this map. A book also that I've been reading lately that I found really helpful has been a book by Tanya Talaga called All My Relations. So that's sharing that with you today. So today we're going to talk about why social enterprise. And maybe you'd think that we're going to start off with what is a social enterprise? But really importantly, it's about why a social enterprise. And I would love to hear from you about what your thoughts are on why a social enterprise. And you can add your name into the chat, but also I would love it even more if you took yourself off mute and just shared your thoughts. One of the things that I find with entrepreneurs is that we learn from one another. And so a chance to hear your perspective is also really great. I saw Jacqueline took off her mute. Did you have something to share, Jacqueline, around why a social enterprise?
I just believe that at this time, not always, but at this time, that what we do as business owners in a social enterprise perspective, whether it's our sole purpose or whether it's something we do in auxiliary in our business, I just think it's all important that we contribute to the world, and social enterprise is just a key way of doing that.
Yeah, I think you've really got it there. We need social enterprise because we need more than one form of capital to make this world a better place. And our structures have been on essentially an economic line, which is, of course, very important. But there are other forms of capital that are equally important. And why social enterprise? A social enterprise can create community value before profit distribution. So we're used to, we're used to our public markets distributing profit, and same with interest or equity. And when we're creating a social enterprise, we're looking at it predominantly is how does it create value for the community that we're in, and how does it create value for the land that we are on, and we're holding those as core to the business proposition. It's not a byproduct of it. It's actually part of the design of the business. And recently, just in this last month, a leader in Canada who started By Social Canada and the Canadian Council for Social Enterprise, David LePage, has written a new book, and I'm just reading through it now. and I'm really enjoying it. It's called Marketplace Revolution, From Concentrated Wealth to Community Capital. And it's a really easy guide around, and social enterprise is a big part of that. So this slide and this one come from David. So we talked about how providing employment to people facing barriers, those could be newcomers, people who have different abilities, people who have had barriers to engagement in the economy. When we provide employment opportunities that are good and have respect and dignity, we create human capital. But with those jobs that people have, we create economic capital, because people get a paycheck and they can participate in our economy equally, hopefully. And when they're working with other people, it creates a social capital. And participating in local activities creates cultural capital. And businesses can do that in all forms when they're doing their business well. And social enterprise holds close the human capital as well as our ecological well-being. So what is a social enterprise? There's quite a few definitions, but for the government, just because we're here on the government of Ontario, we can know that this is how they define it. Social enterprises use business strategies to achieve a social or an environmental impact while generating revenues from sales of goods and services. It also expressly intends to create positive outcomes, and we measure our results. As our business grows, our social impact grows. Sometimes the business doesn't grow, sometimes it stays local and it stays going deep. So it can be your reflection on what it means to actually grow and how do you create benefit for your community and for the issues that matter to you. So just high level, a social as I said, places social ecological impact core to the business strategy. If you're not doing the social and ecological impact, then you're not doing the business. So that's whereas some people may dedicate a line of their business to the revenues. Like I have the skateboard line, and all the skateboards I sell from this line, I'll be donating to a charity or to a kids charity or something. That's excellent, a wonderful thing. It's not a social enterprise in particular. So they can't be secondary to the purpose of the enterprise. It does provide financial returns, so this is a business model. And key is that they measure their results. So they can tell, are they making the difference in the world that you want to make with your business? And it doesn't have to be, huge revolutionary change. It can be small change, but that's what matters. A really great social enterprise that's here in Kingston is called the Belong Group, I think. Anyways, I have a bag of theirs. It's a local woman was volunteering at Keys, and she's a craftsperson, and she's created these really beautiful handbags made of repurposed tires, actually. And she works with a group of Syrian women who are newly arrived in Canada, and they have a pretty thriving business. And their bags are actually really beautiful. I bought a couple of them, and there's lots of examples of that, of employment social enterprises, big and small. But at their best, a social enterprise considers the impact through the fullest of their operations. So that includes your supply chain, where you're getting your service, your goods, your materials, your processes, your governance, your environmental footprint, and your community engagement. So really, it's a very holistic look at all the great ways that business can do good in the world. So I'm just going to pause there for a moment and just get a sense. Does anyone have any questions at this point around, what is a social enterprise and why do we have a social enterprise in our communities? So if you do have a question, you can just pop it into the chat box or raise your hand, and Carrie will keep note of that. And because I'm really happy to talk about your considerations here. So a really, really important thing around social enterprise when we're thinking about it, different models, is understanding sort of the problem or the problem area that you're seeking to bring a solution to. And of course, we do that in regular business development too. You want to look at, for yourself, where things really resonate for you. Where's your energy, your passion? Because an entrepreneur brings all of themselves into what they do. And when we're thinking about a social enterprise, we're thinking about an issue in our society that really matters to you. And a process then needs to unfold around who else does this issue matter to? What are the different perspectives of a particular issue? And it's really important, and I think it's important in any business modeling, business development, is to go both broad and deep in terms of identifying how people perceive the issue, what's out there already, what are some of the policies that may impact, what's the other externalities like we're living through right now, and also to understand that some of the customer segments may be different from who your beneficiaries are, and we'll talk more about that later. And then what kinds of systems are connected to the problem that you are addressing? We have all kinds of systems that keep our society functioning in education and healthcare, housing, development, infrastructure, agriculture, energy. Each of those different systems, many of them interact with one another and have policies, have initiatives that form them. And they will all intersect and interact with your business proposition. And so it's really important to get a sense of where your idea lies. So let's just take a look at some examples, because really that's where we're really going to see the fun stuff happening. And you may have examples too, and I'd love you to share them. Magnus mode is started off, and we'll talk a little bit. We'll start here with talking about the why of social enterprise. So in the why. So Natalie on the left, this is her business, and this is her brother on the right, and he has autism, and when he was growing up, she would draw these cards for him to help him orientate and get himself so he could be independent when he goes outside. So there were cards with drawings that would help him, get on the bus and get off the bus and get to the places he wanted to do. And he would be able to use these cards, and it would help him just be the person he wanted to be in the world. And he found it really helpful. So she created this in order to help her brother out. And over time, she realized that other people could use these kinds of cards. And so she started to make them for her business. And then she started to think about, so her enterprise why was to support people like her brother to be independent and be able to contribute in the way that's best for them to meet their potential. That was her why. Started with her brother. But then when she starts to think about putting it into the context of, who else does this matter to? You can start to think about, there's families, there's schools, but there's also businesses that want to hire people and help them in their work so that they can succeed in their work. She started to build out her business proposition, and she has provided, her clientele is quite huge now, but she's worked closely with like Tim Hortons and another big firms like that, so that they could bring the Magnus Mode cards into the workplace and support their staff who need help to be able to orientate themselves specifically to that workplace. And so in fact, she has created a very successful business that operates in Canada and the United States with franchises in the service industry. And that also helps people get access to work that they want to do in a way that makes sense for them. So that's an excellent example. She is Ontario, was in Toronto. I think she's in southwestern Ontario. Maya Ziv, also a local entrepreneur. She was actually on the radio the other day. You may have heard her on Ontario Morning. So she has a business called Access Now, and it came from her lived experience, where Maya, who lives her life with a wheelchair and other mobility constrictions, was frustrated, like many people are, with the lack of access to all kinds of different points. So she might be able to get all the way to one place. She talked about having to go into the hospital for an MRI, and when she got there, she was able to get into the room, but then they had no ways of supporting her to get onto the MRI table. And there's just so many examples of how not just people with her conditions, but there could be elderly, people with kids, all kinds of mobility issues that we all will have at different points of our lives. So Access Now, so that was the why. She wanted to pinpoint access for people to be able to plan trips in advance, but also to be able to say to organizations, hey, you've got something here that needs to be addressed because it's preventing access. So Access Now is a social media app and map globally. You can go on and check it out, that pinpoints accessibility locations. And her business is also doing really well, and she's based in Toronto. Jessica is in Random Acts of Green, and she's a Peterborough entrepreneur. And her passion was her why, I guess, was how can we support behavior change to be able to change little things in our daily lives that will cumulatively reduce GHG emissions. So she's really, an incredible entrepreneur. I would highly recommend checking out Random Acts of Green. She has communities all over the country who are working together to support Random Acts of Green in their communities. But she also has an app that allows you to track what you've done each day. And with that, she gets, you can get points. And with those points, she has a marketplace. So you can get discounts on sustainable goods. So her why was, how can we help people change our behaviors in a sustainable way? And then when she puts it into the context of who does this matter to, she can start to map out her customer segments and her beneficiaries. And that led her to really becoming a way to connect people and products. So business to consumer products that don't normally get maybe marketplace or shelves on the superstore, on the grocery stores and places, but are all products that people might be looking to find. So Random Acts of Greens is a really great company to get to know. And this is a for-profit. We're going to talk about that later, the different things. So we're going to stick with this context of who is in your ecosystem, because those perspectives matter so much. And sometimes it can also lead you off in the wrong direction. If you haven't thought that through, might find yourself implicating systems that you didn't imagine would be impacted by your decisions. So it's really important to consider this. That's your community. So your ecosystem are those who, like the beneficiaries, they might derive benefit from your solution. And the customers might be those that purchase your solution. And sometimes they're the same, and sometimes they're different. We have other other organizations. They could be other businesses or corporations or not-for-profit organizations, people in your community. So that's the next level of who is in your ecosystem, who cares about the issue that matters to you. And then, of course, what's really important is to look at the macro level. What are the policies from government and public institutions? How do these systems actually interconnect with the solution that you've got? And it can be the smallest solution, but it can have really big impacts. And this week, I'm starting at I'll tell you a little bit about what was in afterwards, but I'm doing 4 sessions starting tomorrow on funding and capital, like 4 strategy sessions for women-led social enterprises, looking at how do you develop a financial plan. And just in this class as well, the variety of solutions that people have that they're working on that benefit their community are just incredible. And they might be very small, starting small, but those entrepreneurs are already thinking about, well, what are the ways in which this solution can scale and grow to support other communities and broader. And so it's always good to be thinking in those those circles, because they all do intersect. So I'm not sure. I'm going to pause here for a second. I'm just going to check my time because I know I only have an hour and we're about halfway through what I wanted to talk about. But I would love us just to pause here and to hear a little bit from the people on this call around, if you don't mind saying, what are you working on? What's something that you're working on? And if you could just share with us what you're working on. It's okay if it's not a social enterprise. It can be something different that you are. Could you name 5 other people or organizations that care about the problem that you're addressing?
Don't be shy. I know some of you are working on social enterprises right now. I'm looking to see if the hands are raised. If not, you can just take yourself off mute. You should be able to speak if you'd like to speak up. Unless you're feeling shy today.
I would be happy to share.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm Setare. What I am doing, I'm just starting and I'm learning about it. So I'm thinking about starting a business of teaching immigrants and refugees about how to access services in Canada. And I'm starting with health access. So the beneficiaries will be directly immigrants and refugees, a large group of people. Like every year we have about 300,000 people coming into Canada. And then settlement organizations, the immigration ministry, and in large government, everybody will benefit. And I think at large, we can say the public will benefit, because when people are healthier, they are happier, and the whole country will benefit from it. I don't know if I should think that big one.
No, I think you should be thinking both small and big, or local and big. Thank you so much for stepping up and sharing what you're working on. That's really interesting. If we could just spend a little bit more time on that. So why are you focused on this particular issue? What's your enterprise why, in a way?
The why, because we know that the first few years that immigrants come to Canada, they are healthy, but over time, because of the stress level and because they don't know how the healthcare system works, their health drops down significantly. And then they become older adults, they use the service much more than anyone else. And so overall, it's not good for immigrants and refugees, and it's not good for the community too. that people come healthy and they lose their health over time.
Yes, yes. From all of the stress that whole change and the systems around us impact on them, and you had mentioned so it definitely impacts the individuals, and you also mentioned that it's other organizations or systems are the healthcare system, and why would they be interested in this area? You sort of hinted on it.
Yeah, so one of the organizations that would be impacted directly by this is the settlement organizations. Right now, we know that many settlement workers spend a lot of time to teach immigrants and refugees one by one how the system works, how to navigate, how to use the services. So if we can teach everyone, you know, as they come in and over time, that would reduce a lot of time and energy that those organizations have to spend. And also when, of course, when people are healthier and they access services on time, rather than going to emerge room, overall the health system would benefit because there will be less pressure on the system. And we have healthier people over time.
Absolutely. So that's what matters to them. So that's an excellent example. Thank you so much for sharing. And the next thing, would anyone else be open to sharing an area that they're working on or their business, and to talk about how that connects to the ecosystem around you? That was an excellent example. And it's okay if you have something that that you have in mind, but that you want to explore it. You don't have to feel like you have it all figured out.
Go ahead. We've got somebody
it's helpful
waving
in these calls just to talk about it. Okay, great.
Go ahead.
Hi there. So my name is Bhairavi. I'd written my little blurb in the chat window, but basically my venture is aimed as a social enterprise, and that's where I'm sort of starting to learn how social enterprises work. But the main focus of my venture is to essentially provide that access and I guess knowledge about the role of space science and exploration and how it relates to us as a country, engaging the youth, encouraging the youth to consider that as a sector if they are interested in any of the STEM fields, so science, tech, engineering, math, providing that access and information through a variety of programs that we offer. And so that's where I think it's more and more obvious to me that there is a social enterprise aspect to it. And in terms of why I had started this, apart from being a member of the space community, it was quite obvious on how there were gaps in the sort of representation, girls in STEM and et cetera, and all of those related challenges that come across. And so for me, it was important to sort of figure out how do we address those in the context of space is cool, space is great, let's encourage all age groups, I guess, about it.
Super. So who else does this matter to? This is a really important way of creating access, and I can see all the reasons, but and when you're thinking about sort of your people or your ecosystem, who else does this matter to?
So I think there are many not-for-profit organizations that are focused on getting girls engaged in the science, tech, engineering, art, math fields. So this is sort of one community that this can relate to. And then again, those who are interested as high schoolers, for example, in pursuing careers, not necessarily realizing that there's a huge community in Canada. Everyone thinks of space, they assume it's only NASA. And so in that sort of specifics, it's like, no, wait, this is a global community who are working towards space innovation and, you know, improving our daily lives even here on Earth. So it's kind of a few sectors that sort of can relate to this. In terms of organizations, I guess what's up on your screen, there aren't many who are specifically doing it in this context, but again, that's where the community partnerships come in helping them with their network and getting that reach, and also in my instance, helping raise the awareness of the specific space science sector.
Excellent.
That addressed it.
Thank you so much. Those are two, yeah, that's wonderful. Those are two excellent examples. And if you're mapping this out, you can think about, specifically the people who you want to connect to in that ecosystem. And there's, some excellent exercises that we could do to go deeper into understanding people's perspectives and how your particular solution, fits with their interests or how it may impact them. And those are two excellent examples with a lot of opportunity to go deeper through your ecosystem mapping. I want to just give an example because I think examples are really, really super. So this is Building Up Canada. And Building Up Canada really connects the dots. It provides housing providers with an opportunity to connect with the work that needs to get done in their buildings. And Mark Sobrero started Building Up. He works with residents in their buildings who are interested in learning the skills for plumbing and construction. He works with as well the trades to help people get their apprenticeship, and they work mostly in the communities that they live in, on the buildings that they live in and in their community. So they help construction unions meet their need for skilled labor. So that's skilled labor is a shortage. And with people who are looking to build their own skills in sustainable careers over the long term. It's really a win-win-win partnership for everybody and that's really important as well when you're thinking about your ecosystem and how the issue that matters to you matters to others, because it can be beneficial you want it to be beneficial for your community and the connecting points that help you achieve what matters to you and your community. So Building Up is another excellent example of a social enterprise that's doing really, really well and has teams of people around. But Mark, when I would talk to him, he would say that all he sees now are toilets. He looks out at Toronto, because that's where he's based, and he sees millions and millions of toilets to be replaced and all the work that can be done. So he has many teams working with him, but his partners are like Toronto Community Housing, and as I mentioned, the skilled labor unions and the and apprenticeship programs, as well as the people in the community who are living in the buildings that they're working in. Lucky Iron Fish is another excellent example of knowing the why and how it fits into your stakeholders, but how, most importantly, is that how your solution, sometimes the customers are not the beneficiaries of your solution. So Lucky Iron Fish, this is a company from Waterloo, Gavin, and I actually have one of these. I bought it at Terra Foods, and I use it in my family as well. It's a fish that you can boil in water, and you put a little bit of lemon juice in it, and it allows the iron to come out and infuse the water. You can use it in your soups or drinking water. And it's been tested, and it's the purpose of it, his why was to work. He was connected to communities in Cambodia that have very high iron deficiency rates, and many countries do, and it impacts children and women significantly. So they created Lucky Iron Fish, and they created it like a fish because it was more culturally appropriate in the communities that they were working in. And its costs so the beneficiaries are the families. For one family of 5, they can have a lucky iron fish for over 5 years, and it will maintain the iron levels for people. Their customers ended up being predominantly World Health Organization organizations that are spending millions and millions and millions in iron supplements. And instead of spending millions in iron supplements, now they can cost about $5 for one lucky iron fish. And so you can imagine the savings there for those organizations who are working on this issue, as well as they sell them in a variety of ways. Like I said, we have one in our family that we use. So it was through that ecosystem mapping to understand who does this, like they knew they wanted to make a difference in the world, in the community. And by thinking through who else matters, they were able to find a business solution or a revenue solution for their company. And they're doing very well. I'd highly recommend you look up Lucky Iron Fish. See. Whoops. Do you still see my screen, Carrie?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, great. I'll tell you another local company. I think Eula is in Toronto, but one of the issues that mattered to them was the working conditions in global supply chains of all around the world. And we know that most of us benefit from the products and the labor of people from other countries who are often in horrendous working conditions, many of them. And they wanted to make a difference. So they've created this they wanted to work on responsible supply chains. And that's almost hidden for us because we don't get to see who's made our shirts. We just know that we're wearing them. So they're hidden. And this is a software and analytics provider for businesses. And you would think, like, why would a business company want to know? Like, it's a place where their workers can securely and anonymously log human rights violations and workplace violations. So why would a company want that? You know, they wouldn't want that to get out, you would think. And so, but what their offering does is provides a risk. Sorry, someone's phone is going off, I think. A risk maintenance for that company. So if there are human rights violations taking place in that company's supply chain that are being logged through this service, that company knows that they need to pay attention. Hopefully that company is paying attention because they don't want that activity to be happening. But also, if it's a huge risk, reputationally and otherwise, to a large company, and we can all think of many examples, I'm sure, when people have discovered that their business practices are suspect and are creating human rights or environmental. This one's focused on human rights violations. So what a great solution. And it really has a big impact on folks. So just good to tell the stories, eh? And this is just one more story. I'm going to end because I could talk about these stories all day long. There are so many amazing examples in the world of people who are putting people and planet first, and the difference we can make, both in our local communities, but really globally as well. So the Plastic Bank is a Vancouver company. They work particularly in reclaiming ocean plastic. And they work with a community particularly in Haiti. They may have expanded, I don't know, since the last time I checked them out, but that's where they started, I believe. So people harvest plastic from the oceans. They sell that plastic at a decent cost so that they can have a dignified wage. And then the plastic bank repurposes the plastic and sells it to other distributors, so that there's actually products on our shelves made from plastic from the plastic bank. They can be dishwashing soap containers and things like that. If you go to their website, you'll see all the different products that that the Plastic Bank is doing. So that's just, they're like almost like an intermediary, but they work with community, and it's a process of building community relationships and understanding the impact that they have in the community. And so it's not just often taking a good idea and plopping it down somewhere. If we do that, we're sort of replicating other systems that we're trying to change, but it's really building that social community capital, and then also helping to reduce ocean plastic in some way. So there's an example. So if we think of these examples, I'm just going to check on my time. I've got about 10 minutes. So I'll just take a few more minutes, and then I'll talk a little bit about WOSIN and the Center for Social Innovation. The characteristics of an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur, I love this quote, and perhaps if people are up for it, you can either pop into the chat or just say out loud what you see as characteristics of an entrepreneur. As you each are an entrepreneur or heading into that area. But there's definitely foresight, imagination, hard work, passion, as everyone says. And the characteristics of a social entrepreneur has all of those similar characteristics, but they have a real drive to to connect with people and put people and planet first in their work. And I think the journey of a social entrepreneur, the perseverance that a social entrepreneur has, is similar to a regular entrepreneur, but they have to really understand the impact of their actions and be able to listen to the community that they want to work with and adjust and change so that they can meet the needs of that community in a way that also meets their business needs. It's tricky. I think it's tricky. It's not actually as clear cut as some people may think, but it's an exciting journey. In Ontario, I'll just take a few minutes. Actually, this is across Canada. We have social enterprise activators all over this country. And these are organizations like CSI, Pillar Nonprofit, SVX. Well, anyways, there's just loads of them here. And there's so many more. This is just a tiny example of the initiatives across the country that are here to support social enterprise development. And social enterprise ecosystem, where there are places like Innovation Works in London, CSI in Toronto, where you can go and work. There's networks like Social Innovation Canada, SEDNet, CENCO in Central Ontario, in the North, See the Change. There's just, it's a plethora, and we are growing globally as well. That I would highly encourage you, if you feel like this is an area that you're really interested in, check out these initiatives all around the world. The Social Enterprise World Forum, go to their website, go to SOCAP in San Francisco, the School for Social Entrepreneurs in Toronto, Bisocial Canada, the Harvard Business School, their largest student group is their social enterprise group, which is pretty interesting. This is a world without a doubt. It used to be more on the fringe, but now it's not on the fringe anymore. I'm just going to go back here for a second and just mention a little bit about. No, it's okay. I'm not. I'm gonna save that for the end. I've got a bit more time. A nonprofit organization, like a social enterprise, can be a for-profit, a nonprofit, a cooperative, a charity. It doesn't matter in what your corporate form is. If you are a for-profit organization, you are using business to generate for profit, which is fine. And there is something called B Corp, which certified B corporations are it's sector agnostic, so any company can become a B Corp certified. And what that does is it tells other customers and other businesses that you have had an evaluation of your business that looks at your environmental impact, the life of the staff and workers, your customers, your community, and governance, and you get a score, and then you become a B corporation. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about that, but I would definitely go and check it out. There's really small sole practitioners or startups that are B Corps right through to, like, I think BDC is a B Corp, and Patagonia, and really big companies as well. And that's a way for us to verify that they are who they say they are. If you're looking at access to capital in Canada, and I'm kind of rushing through because there's a lot to talk about in this field, but we have, and it's not very easy to find, which is why we're having some capital and finance sessions coming up. But we do have all across the country funds that people in communities just like we're in have started because they want to make a difference with their money and drive investment into positive outcomes. The Fair Finance Fund is focused on sustainable agriculture. It's here in Ontario. Windmill microlending, an excellent microlending fund for newcomers. And if you're starting up a business that is focused on supporting access to the economy for newcomers, check out Windmill. Or if you work with newcomer Canadians and people are looking to get a microloan to recertify or to get a course or to do something, Windmill will help you along with that. Rise Asset Development is also a loan fund for people who identify with mental health and addiction issues and want to start up a business, and working with them. And New Commons Development, an excellent company that does investment into social purpose real estate. Yeah, they're really good people. I know them well, and they'll help with community housing projects or community initiatives. So if you've got a real estate that you want to develop, New Commons, I've just worked with them on something my parents are working on in BC with L'Arche. They've just got a $6 million investment from New Commons to develop a housing project there with L'Arche. So it's kind of exciting, and there's lots of opportunity there. Okay, so I'm going to stop there, but before I stop, I realized that I didn't put a slide in about who I am and where I'm calling from, and what this relationship with Carrie is about. So I'll just mention that, as Carrie mentioned, this is part of We Can, and We Can, as well as a project called WOZN, which is the Women of Ontario Social Enterprise Network, are funded projects through the Women Entrepreneurship Strategy. And WOZN is a partnership with Pillar Nonprofit, the Center for Social Innovation, SVX, which is a platform that connects investors with social purpose funds and initiatives, the Nordic Institute in Sault Ste. Marie, and our content partners, Lean for Flourishing. And our focus is to support over 250 women-led businesses, social ventures, to start and grow their business, as well as to get connected to capital, and to support local women to identify and generate ideas that support their local communities through our Women in Innovation and Learning programs. And it's a very exciting collaborative because we're focused on shifting and changing how business supports are brought to women who are in smaller towns, who are newcomers to Canada, who experience and live with the impacts of racism and colonialism. And we're working together to make sure that we understand and repurpose how we bring this kind of learning and connection into women's lives who are starting their social ventures. So it's a really exciting project. There's my name and my contact. You're welcome to contact me anytime. This is my life. I live and breathe this stuff, and I love it. And I'd be happy to talk to you at any time about how you can support your social enterprise to grow. And I'll leave it there. Okay, Carrie?
Sounds excellent. Do you have time for a question or two if there are any out there?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. Does anyone want to drop a question into the chat perhaps, or just raise your hand or shout out your question? We've got about 5 minutes left to go. While you're thinking of your question, just for 30 seconds, I'll mention that I did drop into the chat that if anybody wants a copy of the recording of today's session, because there were some really great resources there that were on the screen, by all means, just email me. My email is in the chat, or I'll put it again while you're asking a question, and I'll get a recording of today's session to you. Does anyone have a question? Oh, I'll just check the chat.
Can I ask a question again?
Sure.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
This was great. Thank you. I learned a lot. I just want to know, for what things, and I'm sorry that I'm asking this question. I'm very new to this. For what I can refer to you to get help from you?
So what can you, just reach out anytime. If you'd like.
I mean, for what kind of questions can I refer to you?
What kind of questions?
Ask her anything.
Right now you mean?
No, in the future, I mean.
Well, why don't I ask you a question? In the future. Okay, so yeah. Let's see. If you're interested in, what resources are available for me to support the startup and growth of my social enterprises? I can let you know. I can let you know that. If you're saying, I think I'm ready for funding, or I need to get access to capital, reach out to me. I'm happy to make a suggestion or to talk to you a little bit further about how you can support your knowledge in that area. Happy to, like, for instance, I'm just going to tell you that through WOZN, we have a START program. If you're starting a social enterprise, social venture, it's an excellent course. It's starting in September. We're just finishing up one now for women-led social ventures that are pivoting their business because of COVID. So we've just been running that all summer. I'm offering tomorrow, but we'll be doing it again in September, developing your financial plan, funding, and capital strategic planning. So I'm happy to work with you and that's looking at some of those funds and resources that I had mentioned in the slides. We will be doing a province-wide how to manage your finances that you'll be able to attend, because everything's going to be on Zoom now. We will be working particularly with businesses that are in their growth stage. So you already have demonstrated revenue, you have staff, and you're ready with something specific that you want to grow. Maybe it's a new location, maybe it's a new line or service. And then we work with our coaches, connect you, if you're in any of our programs, connect you with coaches to help you take your next step. So for us to work more closely together, you would participate in one of the WOZN programs. And they'll be offered this year and next year as well. They usually run anywhere between like a 2-day workshop to like 8 to 10 weeks of a more intense session. So anywhere in that range.
I think someone else is on the call from WOZN. I just was going to say, if someone wants to put the WOZN email or website, I was trying to find it, but I couldn't. So just maybe if someone wants to drop that in the chat. There's 1 or 2 other questions, Joe, if you have time, or are you rushing to another Zoom call?
Yeah.
You have time? Okay. So what business model?
I have time.
Okay. What business model works best or easiest for social enterprise is one of the questions. What business model works best or is easiest for a social enterprise?
That's such a great question. Actually, any business model can work for a social enterprise. It can be B2B, or like business to business or business to consumer. Cooperatives are a very excellent. They're a great option for social enterprise. You can be a for-profit or a not-for-profit. It really depends. They're all questions that need to relate to. You have to ask yourself some key questions around the impact that you want to make in your community and who's going to be involved, and what kind of investment you need to be able to achieve your goal. For instance, so social enterprise, in its strictest sense, and many of my colleagues are strict about this. I am not so strict, but in the strictest sense, all of the profits go back into the community, and what you're creating becomes a community asset. And that is a social enterprise 100%. I am someone who sees change in this world can happen across a spectrum. And so I lean in towards nonprofits and for-profits. At CSI, we have over 1,000 organizations, many of whom are nonprofits and for-profit social enterprises. What I would see as a social enterprise along that spectrum, making huge change in the world, in their communities as well as globally. I think that can happen in a for-profit as well as a nonprofit setting, a corporate structure. Not everyone agrees with me though, which is totally fine. But the business model depends on. I don't think there is a particular one form of business model that would work with a social enterprise.
And someone else has asked
if you're looking at employment. Sometimes employment social enterprises, maybe I'll just say this. If you're working on social inclusion and you want to work with people who have barriers to employment that may need extra supports, where you might partner with a community organization to provide that support, a nonprofit might be better, because then you can apply for you can apply for grants as a for-profit too. Sometimes it's more available than others, but you want to be able to think about what does your business need in order to be able to achieve the social and environmental impacts that you're aiming to do. And partnerships or additional supports may be required, and that might need other forms of investment. So then your corporate structure will depend upon that. I'll leave it there. And if there's one more question, and then we should probably
someone has asked where you get access to the financial class you're running. I'm not sure if that means. Sorry, Marcia was asking that.
Yes, so I'm running. Sure. So the summer session is booked already, but we will be offering a fall session in September 17th to August 7th, I think. And that is funding and capital for strategy sessions for women-led social ventures. And it's women-led because it's coming through this Women of Ontario Social Enterprise Network. And the best way to get information about that right now is to send me an email at joanna@socialinnovation.org, and I'll put you on the list to get that information. The web page for it is being built now, but the July one starts tomorrow, so unfortunately that's full.
But it gives people a chance to look forward to that, and I think that's really, really useful. And thanks to Sarah, and I think Leah as well was putting some info in the chat. So if you haven't found your chat button yet, it's in the bottom middle of your screen. Take a look there. I know we're out of time for today, so I think that this is just scratching the surface of a super interesting, valid, and as Joe mentioned, something that's becoming more the norm. And I think that's super exciting. I think that is going to change the world in which we live. So thank you to Joe for presenting today. Thank you so much to Wozen for co-presenting today as well in terms of supporting this workshop today. We're so grateful for that and the work that they're doing within women entrepreneurs in the area of social enterprise. Again, if anyone wants a copy of today's recording, you can just go to the chat for my email and we'll get that out to you later today once it downloads from the cloud. And in the interim, just have a wonderful day. Good luck with your enterprises. Keep in touch. Someone did ask how they can get involved with WeCan, and so I did put a link there as well. But if you get in touch with me, you can find out all you want to about the WeCan project, which is really in the Kingston region of Ontario. And then of course, Joanna as well to find out more about social innovation and WOZN. So thank you to everyone today for tuning in. It was a great discussion. We're just getting started. I feel, Joe, we might need a part 2 at some time in the future as these ladies get things off the ground.
We could.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Carrie.
Enjoy your day, guys. Oh, go ahead.
I'll just say one last thing. Wonderful. Sorry about that. I'm just thinking that for those in Kingston, I do run a monthly social innovation session through KEDCO on Thursday afternoons. And so if anyone here is interested in that, could go to the Kingston Economic Development Organization. And it's like social enterprise sessions or something like that. So it's a monthly thing, and we've been doing it online since COVID shut down. Or just send me an email. I'm happy to connect you to it. But thanks so much, Carrie, and thanks everyone for spending your time.
Great. Thanks everyone for your time, and enjoy your day. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.